Ghosts appear in many forms. We can see them.
What was that?
We can hear them.
I am not afraid.
And sometimes we can even feel them. We've gone around the globe in search of the most terrifying spirits and supernatural beings who continue to live on long after their deaths. On World's Scariest Hauntings, anything can happen. Because you never know who's watching when the lights go out.
What the hell was that?
In this episode, a 13th century castle with an evil power hidden beneath it.
Huska Castle was built seemingly in the middle of nowhere, standing alone to preserve the rest of the world from what is underneath it.
Legend has it that Huska was constructed to cover a gateway to hell that was once used for torture and experimentation.
It was offered a prisoner full pardon if he agreed to have himself lowered in the pit, and when they pulled him out, his hair was white, and he was mad completely.
Today, Huska is a hotbed of paranormal activity, full of mysterious sights and terrifying supernatural forces.
There's somebody in here making me freezing and then making me warm. What do you want from me?
30 miles north of Prague, in the countryside of the Czech Republic, sits one of the most mysterious castles in the world. This medieval fortress wasn't built to keep people from getting in. It was built to keep something from getting out. Huska Castle was constructed on top of a chasm in the Earth's surface, a bottomless pit that the locals call a gateway to hell. Zuzana Pavlik-Simonkova and her father Jaromir are the current owners of the 13th century stronghold.
My great-grandfather bought Huska in 1924, and we have been the owners, with a short break, almost 50 years, nearly 100 years.
He bought it because he used to walk past the castle, watching it decaying, and he also owned woods around it, so he decided to buy it and reconstruct it.
When I first came here, that was in 1990, the atmosphere was very strange. You come to your own castle that unfortunately has no windows and doors, and you are freaked out a little bit. It's a very strange feeling.
The family have since renovated the castle, but that hasn't stopped the paranormal activity that Huska has become infamous for.
There is always a weird atmosphere in the chapel. For instance, we hold wedding ceremonies here, and I'm not sure if it's thanks to the paranormal forces, but I have seen several people faint here.
Zuzka got married here at the castle. While preparing the wedding, I was standing up there, in the door, and was talking to the workers upstairs, and here downstairs I had a light above me. The minute I started talking, the light began to flash, and then the light bulb blew.
Exploding light bulbs are a regular occurrence in the castle.
It takes a lot for them to be able to communicate and move things as it is, let alone be able to blow out a light bulb or do something on that nature.
We used to have a show here called A Night with Superstars. We've had 15 or 16 seasons. I was the one to launch the night, and when I started speaking, the chandelier above started to flash. We switched the light off, turned it back on, and 6 of the light bulbs blew. We've had it checked by professionals, but they haven't found any fault. There were no other flashing lights, only this particular chandelier.
If somebody walks into a room and a light bulb blows, we could argue that that's just energy at that time. That person may give off a certain electromagnetic field, or if it's paranormal, a spirit could use that light bulb and actually shatter that light bulb. I've only seen it probably on one occasion, and nobody was stood anywhere near it, and it was a lamp, and it actually shattered.
They can take the energy and draw it up from whatever they can use the energy from, whether it's from the portal or the hole or whatever the hole represents or where they're coming from. They could definitely use that energy to manifest it and blow out light bulbs.
Huska Castle has become a popular attraction for history buffs and ghost hunters alike. Hannah McGee runs tours of the mysterious building.
Well, if you look at the territory of the Czech Republic, each 20 kilometers you find a castle or a ruin. Also, many cities in the Czech Republic, they have an ancient character, especially Prague, and many other cities as well. All our history is full of disturbances, countless wars, executions, bloodsheds, repressions, religious or political. So all of that leaves traces of energies. We had Celtic tribes on this territory in the 6th century. Also Slavs migrated to this site. But the first record of a wooden structure goes back to the 9th century. It was probably where the name Houska comes from, because father built it for his son, whose name was Housek, and one of the theories that Houska comes from him. But the Gothic castle was built in the 13th century, supposedly by King Ottokar II, and it would be then 800 years old. People have always avoided the castle, fearing that the evil lurks somewhere within these walls, and it has countless legends.
The castle was actually built with no fortifications. It gives the illusion of actually looking like a castle, but on the inside, it tells a different story entirely.
The current warden of Huska is Miroslav Konopasek.
It does not seem to be at first glance, but what you are looking at now is the oldest castle in a far and wide area. Originally, it used to be an unconquerable castle, and we are now standing on the first buried castle's moat. The most beautiful thing about Huska is the fact that no one can tell where the castle came from, how long it has been standing here, and what its purpose is. The castle was named as the most mysterious discovery in our country.
Location is very unusual because the castle was built on the side of very deep forest, and the site was not suitable for hunting, and there wasn't a trade route nearby, so it's very unusual. And historians do not understand why. When it was built, everyone wondered why the walls were not defending from the enemy that was coming from the outside, but was built towards the courtyard as if they wanted to keep some evil powers inside from getting out.
But what was it inside the castle walls that the locals didn't want to escape? Victoria Burton has been running paranormal tours in the area for almost 5 years.
This place is believed to be the gateway to hell. A long time ago, some 700 or so years, no one's really sure, a hole was discovered in the ground. big, empty, deep, and they believed that this would probably be, because there was no bottom, on its way to hell.
This bottomless pit apparently contained the devil, demons, creatures that were half human and half animal that would creep out at night and roam around attacking people and just causing immense fear to local villagers.
These big creatures and winged beasts were coming out and terrifying people. We figured that this would be demons. So a chapel was built over the top, and then later we had to fortify it to stop these beasts from coming and getting us.
The idea of a hole to hell or a portal or a gateway to the underworld is very common in ancient mythology. We see it in ancient Greek stories, ancient Egyptian stories. There is a cave in modern-day Turkey where a shrine was built to the god Pluto, who was the sort of god of the underworld, and the cave emitted strange, noxious smells that people thought it was actually an entryway to the underworld. So they built this shrine to the god Pluto at the mouth of the cave, and it was part of a ritual of your entry to the underworld.
To this day, the chapel in Huska Castle remains on top of the mysterious chasm.
Here in the chapel, as you can see, there's no big hole in here. That's because it's underneath. It would be irresponsible if we are to believe everything to be true about this castle to have this open. It would be the end of days. This is covered over in the chapel's sacred place, put on top, of course, to try and keep all the evil down underneath here.
But not all the spirits have been trapped. Stories of dark figures and eerie voices at Huska Castle still terrify visitors from around the world. Just outside the town of Melnik in the Czech Republic stands one of the world's most haunted castles, Huska. The chapel in the foundations of the mysterious stronghold covers what many believe to be a gateway to hell. Before Huska was built in the 13th century, the seemingly bottomless pit was used for torturous experiments.
Huska would be considered one of many in a long line of places that are thought to be gateways to hell, but it's particularly interesting because it has a history that many of the others don't have, which is these stories of people being lowered into the pit and apparently coming back claiming to have seen monstrous, like Lovecraftian entities that were sort of half human, half beast.
A prisoner was offered a full pardon if he agreed to have himself lowered in the pit, and later on if he reported what was happening there. So he agreed, and he was dropped down on a rope. It was a silence, and silence was followed by a scream, and when they pulled him out, his hair was white, and he was mad completely. Supposedly they repeated this experiment a few more times later on, and they always got the same result. Hole to Hell later on was sealed by a plate of stone, heavy plate of stone. It was during the construction of the Gothic-style castle to seal it, and the chapel was built over it to keep the negative powers down there.
While our crew were filming at Huska, they left trap cams running overnight in an underground chamber, right next door to the chapel that conceals the Hole to Hell. These were triggered on numerous occasions. A strange mist was caught on one of the cameras. And another managed to capture a spectacular light show, courtesy of some mysterious orbs.
Genuine spirit orbs are said to be the first manifestation of a spirit entity. So these spirits are drawing energy from the ambient environment and they're trying to show themselves. And these often appear as balls of light, and they can be picked up on cameras or be seen with the naked eye.
You can quite clearly see an orb. We usually collect orbs on images and things like that. Sometimes you're not aware of them, sometimes you're quite aware of them.
I think that the more and more people use cameras these days, they use infrared technology and specialist cameras for ghost hunting, the likelihood is higher that you are going to get something, but it's still a rare phenomenon to catch on video.
Ghost hunter and tour guide Victoria Burton has been investigating Huska for 5 years since moving here from London. She's still trying to decipher the mysteries of the castle.
Today we're just going to feel out, try and establish whether this is just a big myth, a big misunderstanding, or if there's something really hiding underneath all of this mysterious castle.
Victoria has come equipped with a range of ghost hunting tools, including an electromagnetic field, or EMF, detector.
Paranormal investigators use EMF detectors to try and communicate with spirits, but you can do that by visually seeing these lights changing colour and flashing, and also listening to the alarms that these devices give off. Spirits are said to manipulate the environment, the ambient temperature, the electrostatic energy, and the EMF, and those meters are able to pick up on these changes.
You can more or less ask closed questions to something, such as, are you there? Flash to red if you are here, and you can kind of have a good communication session using an EMF meter.
Nothing's happening at the moment, which isn't surprising. There's no reason for it to go off. Let's pretend the paranormal is a big lie. Nothing exists, nothing is real. Then this shouldn't do anything. But if something wants to join us, we may see it here, and we can ask those valuable yes or no questions.
Another way of detecting spirits is by listening out for their voices.
This is our SB7 spirit box. This is one of my favourite devices. It scans radio frequencies very quickly, and the idea is that it will provide a signal for the other side to be able to send us their voice back through. What we're listening for are voices that cut through all of that stand alone and come through more than once. If we have a voice that comes through twice and it's the same, then I would say the chances are quite high we were talking not to the radio.
When it comes to communication, there is no language barrier in the spirit world.
Lots of people use English when they speak to these devices, and a lot of time we get a lot of stick because why are we speaking English to old Czech ghosts from hundreds of years ago? When we come to these old places, when we go to new places, in any part of the world, it doesn't matter what language you're using. My favourite theory, and one I prescribe to from hearing things and experiencing things, is that language only works the way it does here on planet Earth. We are very foolish to think that the same rules apply anywhere else. We have our physical realm, we have our vocal cords to say chair, table, bear, watch out for those things. But when we leave this body and we leave this place, there are no bears, there are no chairs. We no longer have to find a way to communicate our feelings because we are kind of our feelings. So you can use intention. So if you're somewhere spooky, as long as you use your heart and your mind and you open yourself up, and you can speak any language, but you will hear them come back through the spirit box in their native language, because that's what they're used to in the physical world, which they are trying to contact.
I personally absolutely love them because they are a tool that everybody can hear. I did something in broad daylight with a couple of people who, one person was quite sceptical about it, another person was quite open, and this person who actually came through was a member of their family who'd passed away 10 years previous. Now, I didn't know this person, but he knew my name and he knew how many people were in the room at the time, and 4 people witnessed this. And even to this day, they said they would never have believed it if they hadn't have seen it or heard it.
According to Victoria, her best chance of detecting a spirit in Huska is by, quite literally, feeling their presence.
I also have one more. This is the thermometer. It's an infrared thermometer. And the idea is if anything crosses in the beam, not only we can see that disappear, but the temperature will change accordingly. The idea is that things draw the energy out of the air and make it colder so we can check. Also, you may feel suddenly very hot, I find. There are hot spots and cold spots. Nothing is coming up on my meters in here. The only interesting thing is that the temperature is 6.66. Yeah, let's keep heading down.
Victoria enters the chamber next to the chapel that was built on top of Huska's infamous Hold to Hell, the same room where our trap cameras picked up some incredible paranormal activity.
The temperature right here was 4 degrees a moment ago, and then it was 3, and now it is going down. It was 2.6, 2.5. Come on, more. Can we make this more? If you really don't like me being in here, you'd better make it so cold that I leave. 2.5. Can we get it any colder? 2.4, 2.3. Come on, let's get colder. It's really strange. It was 4 degrees right here, and now there are significantly more bodies in here, so it should be a little bit warmer, if anything. That is odd.
The drop in temperature inside the chamber may be due to one of Huska's most cited ghosts, a shadow person known as the Guardian.
The Guardian shadow figure. It makes sense in terms of the hole or the portal or the vortex, or however you would like to classify the gaping hole underneath Houska. But it makes sense because people state that he was guarding something, he was protecting something. That could be the hole, that could be from something coming in or going out, that could be from people going in, that there could be an array of things, but he's obviously there for a reason. And he makes that known to people, that he doesn't even have to say anything, and his presence alone makes them feel like he's guarding or protecting something, because he probably is.
Can we bring this back up to warm? If there's anybody in here, changing the temperature. Do you need help? Coś pomoc?
Suddenly, Victoria begins to feel hot.
It's like a feeling that I'm not choosing, if that makes sense. And this is all very exhilarating, but it's like an excitement feeling that's not mine. I don't know, maybe it's something in here is, and I'm not cold. I'm not cold at all. Right now, I'm not cold at all. It feels like it's in my body. 3.6, 3.5. Are you on me? Okay, I'm gonna use the spirit box because I'm hot. I'm actually starting to sweat a little bit. Down in the underground and most places where I go where they're haunted, if I suddenly get warm, then there's a good chance there's someone around. It's a good sign. If there's somebody in here making me freezing and then making me warm, what do you want from me? You're standing right in front of me and I can't hear you. Try harder, speak here.
Was it the Guardian who was in the room with Victoria?
I've always got really cold hands. They feel warm. Yeah, I don't know. I can't figure it out. It's just a really strange feeling, like the feeling you get when you are about to go on a roller coaster.
With such an abundance of paranormal activity, it's no surprise that Huska Castle is such a popular location for keen ghost hunters from around the world. Huska Castle in the Czech Republic has become a tourist hotspot for paranormal enthusiasts. But between 1939 and 1945, the then Czechoslovakia was occupied by the Nazis, who attempted to harness the mystical power deep inside the 13th century castle.
It's documented that Hitler stayed in the Melnik region a couple of times. Our people had to leave during the war.
During World War II, Nazi SS group occupied the castle, and no one really knows what they were doing in here because this castle had no strategic importance for them. When Germany was bombed, a lot of important books were brought from Germany to Huska, and when Nazis left, they found a lot of books on occult and Kabbalah. One of the theory is that Nazis wanted to change course of the war when they were losing at the end by doing some rituals. But also one of the theories is that they were breeding pure Aryan race in here at the castle. They had suitable women, and this is what they were doing here.
We had lots of various visits regarding this issue. For instance, a group of ufologists. Their boss was a Concorde pilot and had a group of people around him that were saying that Hitler teleported himself from here to the rest of the world.
It may seem far-fetched, but when it comes to the mysterious Huska castle, nothing surprises Jaromír.
I had a phone call. A person wanted to meet me up at Cafe Slavia and tell me something about game rules on Huska. I went with my wife. The person waiting for us was very strange. He looked strange. He didn't like the fact that I hadn't arrived on my own. I think that was the reason that he didn't tell me much. He wasn't prepared for me to come with company. The chat showed that he wanted to warn me, to treat the supernatural powers with respect, not to go against them. Otherwise, they could turn against me. That was the end of our conversation. It ended untimely. He was a very strange person to look at. He was blonde with very strange blue eyes. He looked like he was from a different world.
Not all the activity at Huska takes place down in the castle's underbelly. Owner Jaromír has heard many stories about a terrifying spirit in the hunting room.
We had two female musicians here, a grandma and her granddaughter. One played keys and the other one some sort of a flute. They used to sleep over here in the hunting room on Saturdays and Sundays. They once brought along a friend who was supposedly a more sensitive medium. Horrible things happened that night. Stamping and wheezing. Mira told me that they were out of there by 7 in the morning, and they never came back. They haven't played here since.
Paranormal enthusiast Andrea Trinity remembers the night that she spent at Huska.
We arrived at the castle at midnight, and we chose this hunting room as our base. We read about paranormal activities taking place here, or various entities being here, so we decided to make a protective circle around us. We drew the circle with sanctified chalk to prevent an attack from beings, ghosts. Before we even drew the circle, one of my colleagues, Ivan, started to unpack our stuff, and my other colleague, Jacek, went to have a look around the castle. We went up this staircase, and we found a large room above our base, the hunting room. The room had a very negative feeling. Our hearts were beating fast. We couldn't breathe. We then came back to our base. When we drew the protective circle, we lit a candle and waited for what was going to happen. When the candle was lit, nothing happened. Totally quiet.
Andrea decided to see what would happen with the lights out.
We blew the candle and waited. After a while, we heard steps coming down the stairs toward our circle. At first, we thought that the wooden floorboards were moving. But suddenly, we heard heavy steps approaching our circle. Then, a minute of silence, followed by a loud bang coming from the ceiling, as if somebody dropped a barrel or a very heavy object to the floor. We all freaked out and lit the candle again. When the candle was burning, everything went quiet. Nothing was happening at all. This was happening all night long. When we had the candle burning, everything went quiet. We blew it out, and paranormal activities started to take place. We cannot say why this was happening. Somebody wanted us to step outside the circle to hurt us, or just wanted us to leave. We don't know. We cannot explain this. At dawn, we heard steps in this place, where the niche is. When the sun came up, I saw a black figure walk past from behind this wardrobe.
Tam je takovej výklenek, teď je zadělaný skříní, takže není vidět.
Was the black figure one of Huska's notorious shadow people?
It's claimed that shadow people have been seen a lot around Huska Castle. So these are sort of shadowy entities that people catch on the periphery of their vision, and they're thought to be malignant and have been associated with the demonic. And I think when people have seen them, they've often reported feeling very terrorized and scared and nervous.
I admit that I was freaked out and scared, the most I've ever been in my whole life. I held hands with my colleague until the morning. I think anyone would have been scared. It was a very strong feeling, and we were looking forward to the sunrise so that we could leave the circle and get out of there.
After surviving the night, Andrea woke up terrified and is still mystified to this day.
We searched the entire castle at sunrise. Mrs. Rampuchova kindly lent us the keys to the castle so we could walk around. We went through the whole castle to explore what it could have been that caused the bangs. Maybe a loose shutter, open door, draft. What could cause this? We couldn't find anything like it. I have unrepeatable memories of Huska Castle that I will remember for the rest of my life.
Ten hrad na Housku mám neopakovatelný zážitky, kterou si budu pamatovat do konce života.
And it's not just visitors who are scared of the castle. Even the current owner has been frightened.
Je pravda, že jednou jsem se tady bál, byl jsem tady sám.
It is true that I was once scared. I was here on my own. This is 25 or 30 years ago. Due to some funding, I had to photograph some things. I was unusually feeling very uneasy and couldn't wait to get out. It was a feeling like someone was here with me. I do believe that something between sky and earth exists. If it's connected to the hole into hell, I guess you know the legend. Smoke coming up from the ground, and nobody can block it.
It may be too scary for some people to visit, but many others cannot wait to come and sample the devilish delights of Huska Castle. "30 miles north of Prague in the Czech Republic is a fortress built to protect people from the evil within. Local journalist Jitka Lenakova knows all about the secrets of the enigmatic Huska Castle.
They say that the castle was built to guard a secret, which is located in the depths of the earth, a so-called hole to hell. It is said the chapel was built over this hole, which is meant to be the central point of the castle.
The walls of the chapel and the neighbouring green chamber were painted with religious imagery in the early 1400s to protect the castle from what lies beneath.
You can see here various interesting illustrations. You will probably recognize St. George killing the dragon. The interesting fact is that on St. George's Day, the first ray of sunlight after sunrise comes through the window to the spear and moves downwards towards the dragon's muzzle during the day until sunset.
It's quite common to use religious artifacts in the case of warding off evil spirits. So we see this in practice of exorcism, where priests usually use relics of saints or things that have been associated with a saint. We see the same at Huska Castle in the depiction of saints on the fresco. So they would be used to neutralize the demonic forces that they considered to be associated with the area.
This is St. Michael, who weighs the souls, comparing their guilt or their sins.
You want to keep, obviously, any sort of energy that's down there, you want to kind of keep it housed rather than unleashing it to the atmosphere. And some people actually have put spells on things and put runes on top of them and crucifixes, anything to do with godlike murals and things like that.
We are looking at the most remarkable painting from the entire castle. It is a left-handed female archer who is evidently trying to destroy a form of evil, some evil being, which she is pointing at with her arrow. And in this way, she mystically protects this place.
We all can see it as all these drawings are preserving this place, because this is the most evil place on the castle.
When you're going into any haunted location or space, especially dating back to the early, 1400s, your religion and the things that you believe strongly in are what protect you. So whether it's a painting, whether it's an amulet, whether it's a symbol, whether it's a stone, whether it's an herb, your intent, if you feel protected by it, that will protect you. So that makes total sense on why they would build a holy place above a place that they believed was full of darkness.
When ghost hunter Andrea Trinity visited Huska, she noticed that it wasn't just the humans that were scared by the 13th century castle.
When we arrived, there were 2 German shepherd dogs in here. They greeted us and played with us. When they came closer, suddenly they bristled up, got scared, and ran away from us to hide, as if we were soaked up with something strange. They felt it and ran away. Animals are very sensitive to things like that. It was not normal, something strange.
I believe animals can definitely sense and see spirit, 100%. So they won't enter into a place, or they'll react off of what they're seeing or feeling in a space.
We could put this down to the fact that certain animals have more heightened senses than we do. If there were to be something there that would be oppressive or disturbing, then they would likely be more receptive to it than we would be.
Animals like domestic pets, cats and dogs, for example, have a sixth sense that's very, very heightened. They're able to see and hear spirits, and their hearing is so much stronger than ours and better than ours, they can hear at different frequency ranges. It's not surprising that dogs, for example, are terrified to enter Huska Castle, or they act erratically, running off, barking and not listening to the commands of their owners. This is a common phenomenon, and dogs make brilliant investigators during paranormal investigations.
The paranormal energy at Huska is palpable. Castle owner Jaromir has learned to live alongside it.
We hold a ball here every year. I usually hang around in our private space at the back. We call it a club. Lots of my friends were sitting there and they called me over. to tell them something about the mysteries. I came over with my glass of wine. I put my glass on the table, started to talk, and all of a sudden, my glass moved towards the centre of the table. I caught it after about 20 or 30 centimetres. Didn't feel any force. When I released it, it moved a bit more, then stopped. We weren't able to technically explain this incident. We couldn't think of any reason, because the glass wasn't wet, the table wasn't wet near me. We couldn't explain it. You can find evidence for technical stuff, but this movement of a glass is not possible to explain.
Technické věci se daly nějak technicky třeba doložit, ale tohleto ujetí skleničky se prostě nedá nějak.
There are reports at Huska Castle of glasses levitating or moving. Now, the spirits responsible for this type of phenomena are either poltergeists or intelligent spirits that are able to physically interact with those objects.
People would consider a poltergeist to be a spirit that can interact with our real material world. So there'd be a sense that they're autonomous and are aware of themselves and aware that we are there too. Commonly, poltergeists are considered to be malicious spirits or malignant entities.
It's an amazing phenomena, and obviously shows that these spirits are able to interact physically and are able to use that energy in such a way as to move an object.
Tour guide Hannah McGee believes that the negative energy at the castle can affect people even after leaving.
I was here almost 10 years ago. I felt a bit uneasy when I was entering the courtyard, but I had my dog at that time. He was sniffing around, and then he started to bark, and there was nothing except for walls around him, so there was no reason why he was getting so excited. But it wasn't major. When we returned back to Prague, I parked my car in the city center, and when I returned back 4 hours later, the car was gone. It was found by the police later on, trashed, stripped off all the valuables. But it is said that some people, after they left Huska, they were followed by bad luck. So I don't know if it was coincidence or just bad luck.
Castle warden Miroslav Konopasek has experienced things here that he cannot explain.
When I entered the castle, there was always something behind my back. It was an unpleasant feeling. So I went to the castle one night on my own, and whatever it was, I seriously told it off. Nothing has happened since then. It looks like we respect each other.
Despite all the paranormal activity, owner Zuzana and her father Jaromir wouldn't trade Huska for anywhere in the world.
I
would like to say that it is sometimes difficult to own a castle, but I am happy that the castle is alive and as a whole lives with me, with us.
But do they believe that Huska is haunted?
I hope it is, and I also hope that the forces are only good.
The spirits make it clear that they're here. They give me signals. I'm polite to them, and they're polite to me. Nobody has punished us so far, and I hope that we'll be able to live with them in future. I hope everything will be all right.
Snad tady budeme moct do budoucna s nimi dál být a snad to bude v pořádku.